It was the 7th year since my diagnosis. That's when the invitation from Chloe Sterling, my first love and my ex-girlfriend, arrived in the mail. Leo, I'm getting married. The first time I saw Chloe was on a summer evening before the start of freshman year. The air was warm, the moon was high, and Mirror Lake shimmered. She was standing at the edge of the water in a simple white dress, staring blankly at the surface, her beautiful face cast in a cool, distant light. She was barefoot. Below the hem of her dress, the moonlight fell on skin as pale as snow. Clutching the fabric, she walked step by step into the lake, like a spirit on a pilgrimage. The water was past her knees when I, just passing by, saw her. My heart leaped into my throat. I broke into a run, splashing into the water and grabbing her by her delicate wrist. Hey, I said, my voice tight. The water's freezing. You'll catch a cold trying to swim now. Those 3 years of high school were the happiest and most painful of my life. Breaking through the walls of a withdrawn, depressed girl was no easy task. I took a lot of hits. Every time Chloe's emotions shattered, every time she was lost in despair, I was there beside her, encouraging her, comforting her. Over and over, I never got tired of it. She was an outcast, so I made it my job to shamelessly talk to her every day, ignoring the whispers calling me a simp. Chloe, Mr. Davison is looking for you. Hey, Chloe, I borrowed your notes for the last test. Here they are. Chloe, I'm stuck on this problem. Can you take a look? Chloe, I'm starving. You got anything to eat? Here. A thank you for the granola bar you gave me last week. Chloe, I was smart about it. I never forced conversation that would make her uncomfortable. Instead, I always found some unavoidable excuse, schoolwork, a message from a teacher, something I needed to return. And I never, ever mentioned what happened at the lake that night or asked about her family. It was our silent agreement. Chloe was, by any measure, perfect, stunning, graceful, and a straight-A student. But we're all social creatures, and in that department, she was failing. Always alone, a solitary figure lost in her own world. It was as if the piece labeled belonging was missing from the puzzle of her life. Fortunately, I was there to help her find it. A moon needs stars to make a night sky. A lone star can't fill the darkness. Later, we went to the same university. After a little more of my persistent charm, we started dating, just like in some cheesy romance novel where the hero saves the damsel in distress. Maybe it was the 3 years of my constant presence, or maybe it was a mix of guilt, fascination, and reliance on her part. But the girl fell in love with the hero who had rescued her under the moonlight. The prince and princess finally got together, and everyone watched. We became that couple on campus, the one everyone envied. We made promises under the stars and whispered secrets in the moonlight. Slowly, Chloe began to step out of her dark prison and into the sun. With my unwavering care, she transformed. She became vibrant, outgoing, confident, and radiant. After a long, cold winter, a seed had finally blossomed under the first rays of spring's sun, producing the most magnificent flower. It was a flower that bloomed only for me. In the great garden of college and the real world that followed, Chloe outshone everyone else. But as she bloomed, I began to wither. I started to become the person she used to be, only worse. Junior year was when it all fell apart. A series of catastrophes hit my family. My mother lost her long battle with cancer. My grandmother died in a house fire. And my father, broken by it all, had a psychotic break and shot himself. In the span of a single year, I buried the 3 people I was closest to. Suddenly, besides Chloe, I had nothing. That's when I was diagnosed. A healer can't heal himself. The person who leads others out of the darkness can be terrified of it himself. I'd lived through Chloe's past with her. I knew exactly how that darkness tasted. I didn't want our future to be a repeat of it. It was better for me to bear all the hardship alone. Driven by that foolish, macho idea, I locked myself away, building walls so high that even Chloe couldn't get over them. I hid my diagnosis. I tried my best to act normal around her, but some things were impossible to hide. The creeping exhaustion, the loss of appetite, the moments my mind would just go blank, the sudden emotional breakdowns for no reason, and my hands, which I could no longer control. Worst of all was the pathological possessiveness. I couldn't stand seeing other men near her, but Chloe was too brilliant to go unnoticed. Inevitably, there was never a shortage of guys trying to get her attention, especially after we graduated and entered the professional world. They were richer, more powerful, one after another. We talked about it, but those conversations never went anywhere. My upbringing wouldn't let me argue with her, wouldn't let me stoop to that level. So I just faced it all alone. I sank deeper and deeper, until the weight of it all crushed me. 3 years after graduation, for years after my diagnosis. We were talking about marriage, but my physical symptoms had gotten so bad I could barely function. So I ended it. Our 10-year journey came to a halt. Chloe, I said, we're done. I'm in love with someone else. The wedding invitation Leo received was strange. There were no names, just a watercolor painting of a starry sky, a full moon, and a lake. Below it, a date and an address. The venue. The old him, upon learning that the person he'd sworn to grow old with was marrying someone else, would have been shattered. But years of ECT had dulled his ability to feel pain, to regulate his emotions. All his memories with Chloe felt like they were covered by a thin veil of gauze. He knew they were his experiences, but when he recalled them, he felt like a spectator, completely disconnected. He lay quietly on his bed, his mind a fog, his lifeless eyes still fixed on the invitation. Whatever he thought, it doesn't matter if I go or not. To him, now, Chloe was just a deeply familiar stranger. There was no feeling, or rather, whatever feelings he had for her were buried deep beneath that veil. Leo silently pushed down the long-dormant tremor in his heart and tossed the invitation onto the floor. When Dr. Audrey Chun let herself in, the card fluttered to a stop at her feet. She bent down and placed it back on his nightstand. Leo, getting out and moving around a little could help your recovery. Audrey was his college classmate and his private physician. She knew the whole story with him and Chloe. But with no other information on the card, she had no idea it was from her. After finishing her daily checkup, Audrey brought up the invitation again. You're doing well. Your recovery is on track. We could try stopping the medication for a while and see how you do. By the way, whose invitation is this? A friend from high school. Leo was silent. Audrey was a mutual friend of his and Chloe's, but only he had received an invitation. Audrey didn't even know Chloe was getting married. Was it because he was the ex-boyfriend? Was that why it was sent only to him? Leo gave a bitter smile. After 10 years, he knew Chloe all too well. This could only be her way of getting revenge. Revenge for his betrayal. It's Chloe's. Audrey froze for a second, then looked at him cautiously. You know, you don't have to go out. You can get exercise at home, too. It's okay, Audrey. The morning sun streamed through the window, casting half of Leo's face in shadow. In the interplay of light and dark, Audrey saw a flicker of color return to his cheek for the first time in ages. Looking at his handsome but gaunt face, she felt a pang of pity. Leo, if it's too hard, you don't have to go. It's fine, Audrey, Leo said with a gentle smile, cutting her off. After this month, I won't be able to afford your fees anymore. So, what's in my treatment here? Thank you for everything these past few years. From her experience, Audrey knew that when a patient said something like that, it was a sign they had given up, that they could do something drastic at any moment. She refused immediately. No, I'm your doctor, and I don't approve. If you're stopping treatment because of money, I can lend you some. There's no need, Audrey. You just said it yourself. I'm doing well. I could try going off the meds. If I don't take this step, I might never get better. Audrey stared into his determined eyes, speechless for a moment. She knew he was right. On any other day, she would have been thrilled to hear him say this and would have supported him completely. But he was saying it now, right after receiving Chloe's wedding invitation. It made her deeply worried. Chloe was Leo's cure, but she could also be his deadliest poison. It was a gamble she wasn't willing to take. No, we need to observe you for at least another month. Don't worry about the cost. Consider me paying you back for old times, Audrey said, her eyes narrowing with resolve. Leo opened his mouth to protest, but Audrey didn't give him the chance. That's all for today. I'll be back tomorrow. After packing her things and walking to the door, she paused, her back to him, a silhouette both graceful and professional. By the way, if you're thinking of changing your keypad code or moving out in the middle of the night, please don't tell me. I'm afraid I'd be tempted to slap you. Back in her own apartment, Audrey scrolled through her contacts. After a long hesitation, she finally dialed the number of the woman she despised. Chloe Sterling? You're getting married. Chloe's wedding was set for August 26th, the date they had met under the moonlight 13 years ago. The address on the invitation was a famous estate on Mercer Island, just outside the city. It had originally belonged to some disgraced politician before being bought a year ago by a mysterious, ultra-wealthy buyer for an astronomical sum. No one had ever moved in. For it to suddenly be used as a wedding venue, given the mysterious owner's wealth and status, should have drawn massive attention. The place should have been swarming with cars and buzzing with people. But when Leo got out of the Uber and saw the wide-open gates and the completely empty grounds, a strange feeling washed over him. Leo stood at the entrance, hesitating. He hadn't wanted to come, but for some reason, Audrey had insisted, framing it as a chance to find closure and start fresh. But Leo knew she was hiding something. Maybe some new kind of therapy? He didn't care. For the past 3 years, Audrey had tried everything to help him. Even when he knew it was pointless, He always did his best to cooperate, just so she wouldn't feel defeated. This time was no different. Taking a deep breath, Leo walked slowly onto the estate. He hadn't gone more than a few steps when a woman who looked like an estate manager approached him. "Good afternoon, Mr. Vance. I am the manager here. Welcome. Please, this way." The manager led Leo to a black Maybach, driven, of course, by another woman. As they drove, Leo looked at the manager in the passenger seat, his mind filled with questions. "Shouldn't you be greeting the other guests?" The manager inclined her head, her face fixed in a flawless, professional smile. "Mr. Vance, you are our most honored guest." It wasn't an answer. From the moment he'd received that invitation, a vague sense of unease had been growing inside him. Now, hearing the manager's words, it intensified. As his anxiety spiked, he was suddenly thrown back to a memory from junior year of college, when Chloe had been cast as the lead in a play. He had felt the same suffocating unease back then. It was so strong that he skipped class for the first time ever and went to watch the rehearsal. On stage, Chloe was in a stunning red gown, holding the male lead's hand, delivering her lines with a look of deep affection. She was breathtakingly beautiful. Her sharp, clear eyes held a cool, inviolable quality, like a noble princess who deserved the world's adoration. Yet every smile, every glance, held the soft grace of a southern belle. The combination was intoxicating. Everyone there was captivated, including Leo. But immediately following that awe was a sharp, stabbing pain. That look, that expression, was supposed to be for him, but another man had stolen it. They had been together for 6 years, and he had never seen her look like that. All his emotions erupted at once. The only thing he could do was storm the stage and forcibly pull her away. As he left, he shot a glare at the actor playing the male lead. It was Audrey Chun, dressed as a man for the role. Now, that same familiar unease washed over him again. But this time, the panic was gone. The ECT hadn't just taken his illness, it had also taken his right to feel pain. Leo closed his eyes, and when he opened them a moment later, they were empty of all joy or sorrow, filled only with a profound emptiness. He thought that perhaps this was the price he had to pay for pulling someone else out of the abyss. "We're here, Mr. Vance. The ceremony is behind the house. You can go around the side, or you can walk through the house. I would recommend walking through." The manager opened Leo's door, bowing slightly, her voice full of deference. Leo glanced at the impossibly luxurious house, and the unease inside him peaked. His hands and feet began to cramp, and his heart hammered against his ribs, but his mind was chillingly calm and clear, without a trace of sadness. He felt like his soul had detached from his body, watching as his mind and his physical form fought for control. Kind of interesting, isn't it? Leo shook his head with a bitter smile, burying the absurd thought. He took a sharp breath and walked slowly toward the house. The interior had been meticulously decorated, dripping with jewels and exuding an air of sophisticated opulence. Lining both sides of the main hallway were dozens of easels, each holding a painting. The subject of every painting was, of course, the bride of this wedding, Chloe. They chronicled her life in the years since he had broken up with her. Closing his eyes, Leo could almost see the vibrant figure from the canvases moving, and he couldn't stop himself from imagining her in a wedding dress. As for the other half of each canvas, which was covered by a blank sheet of paper, Leo felt no desire to investigate. He knew who was painted there, the groom, a version of himself that he had once dreamed of being. After lingering for a long time in front of the final painting, Leo finally summoned the courage to walk out of the house. In the backyard, a vast lake stretched out before him. A damp breeze swept through his hair, clearing the fog from his eyes. The figure of a woman in a white dress, standing in the water, seemed to cross the 13 years of time, merging with the memory of the girl by the lake under the moon, until the two were indistinguishable. She stood in the middle of the lake, the shallow water soaking the hem of her dress just past her knees. She turned, a beautiful curve gracing her lips. "Leo, my groom, it's been a long time." Before this moment, Leo had considered countless possibilities. The worst he had imagined was that Chloe was using this wedding as a front to prove he still had feelings for her, only to then humiliate and attack him, to make him admit how pathetic his reasons for leaving were. That was the extent of the evil he could imagine from her. It's not like she was going to lure him here to steal his kidneys and ship him off to some cartel hideout, right? But what Leo never could have expected was that, in a way, she really was after a part of him. And this grand estate, much like a cartel compound, truly was a one-way trip. From the moment he saw Chloe again, after 3 years, to the moment they walked out with a marriage certificate, less than half a day had passed. It felt like a lifetime. "Leo," she had said. As punishment for breaking your promise, I'm marrying you. Now you can never escape the guilt of what you did to me. This time, there's no running away. The night Audrey called Chloe back at the estate. I don't care that you stole my patient's records. Audrey's voice was like ice over the phone. I'm just reminding you that his current state is a side effect of the ECT. His emotional blunting and memory loss are irreversible. And you're trying to challenge medical science with this. This ridiculous plan of yours. Looking at the woman on her security monitor, Audrey felt a wave of absurdity. What the hell was this project? Rebuild Leo. Where was this energy years ago? You were a depression patient once, Chloe. How could you not see something was wrong with him? When you suspected what was really going on, why didn't you call him out on his lie about falling for me? You loved him. Why did you agree to the breakup so easily? How could you stand by and do nothing while he was tortured by this disease for 3 years? 1,000 accusations swirled in her mind, but Audrey couldn't bring herself to say them. Instead, she just stared at Chloe's image with a cold, condescending glare. These 3 years were to make him understand that he loves me, and he can only love me. Chloe's voice was unervingly calm. As for his illness, I don't care. We were always going to end up together. I have a lifetime to make up for the pain he's endured. To the outside world, Chloe was always the picture of rationality. But when it came to Leo, she was a fanatic devoid of all logic. Sometimes Audrey thought that Chloe and the Leo of 3 years ago were the same kind of person. The only difference was that Leo had buckled under the pressure, while Chloe had fully embraced the madness. I'm his doctor. I need to be involved in every step of this treatment, Audrey said, forcing herself back into a professional tone. And I have one last question. Why did you choose to break up with him back then instead of just staying and supporting him? Chloe gracefully set down her teacup, her sharp eyes staring into the distance. Leo's condition made it impossible for him to work. For our future, I had to make enough money for both of us. Huh, that's a convenient excuse. Weren't you afraid he'd do something stupid? How do you think you became his private doctor? You arranged it? That's right, Audrey finally understood. But that didn't make her any less furious. For 3 years, she thought she had been treating Leo, but she had just been a glorified nanny hire by Chloe. Swallowing her anger, Audrey fell back on her professionalism. You know, CBT has its limits. It focuses on current cognitive and behavioral issues. It might not be enough for deep-seated emotional trauma. Not a problem. I know everything about Leo. Forcing him into these situations, if it's more than he can handle, it could backfire spectacularly. He's stronger than you think. I've tried this kind of exposure therapy before. It didn't work. That's because I wasn't with him. With Chloe laying it all out like that, Audrey had nothing left to say. But for some reason, looking at that exquisitely beautiful and confident face, she had the overwhelming urge to slap it. Since you've made up your mind, I'll cooperate. But let me make one thing clear. If you screw this up, I'm taking him away from you. You won't get the chance. On the drive back from the King County Courthouse, Chloe was silent, staring out the window at the trees blurring past, lost in thought. Leo sat beside her, the scent of roses from her perfume filling the small space. He turned his head and saw the delicate line of her jaw and her slender, pale neck. 3 years had passed, but time had left no mark on her face. If anything, it had added a layer of mature grace. She was as radiant and untouchable as ever. Just one look, and Leo was captivated. Just like 13 years ago, when he first saw her under the moon. Why me? Leo broke the silence first, feeling like he had to say something. You deserve better. Chloe turned to meet his calm, empty eyes, a flicker of pain crossing her own before she hid it. For revenge, of course. With that, she pulled a withered, dried flower from her handbag. A blue rose. Of course, Leo recognized it. It was the one he'd given her 3 years ago when he broke up with her. He vaguely remembered the scene. It was dusk, and he was holding her hand as they walked along the sandy shore of the park lake. Chloe was practically skipping, her smile brilliant as she talked about their future. A wedding, kids, seeing the snow on Mount Rainier, the northern lights. But then Leo's hand, the one holding hers, began to seize up, his fingers curling into a claw against his will. To keep her from seeing, he violently pulled his hand away and hid it behind his back. He would never forget the look of shock and confusion on her face. She just stood there, staring at him as if he'd inflicted the deepest wound imaginable. The setting sun bathed her in a golden, ethereal light. It was that very vision of her perfection and holiness that became the final straw that broke him. When the spasm passed, he slowly took the blue rose from his jacket pocket and held it out to her. Chloe, did you know? There's no such thing as a naturally blue rose. The ones you see in stores are all dyed or genetically engineered. Chloe, I was giving you a fake flower. And a fake love. Chloe, we're done. I'm in love with someone else. Why aren't you saying anything? Do you remember this flower? Chloe's voice pulled him back to the present. Her face had gone a little pale, but she was trying hard to keep her composure. Leo's expression, which had been so cold, softened. It was as if something inside him was slowly waking up. He glanced at the rose, but quickly looked away. For some reason, seeing it made him remember how he had betrayed the passionate heart of the woman beside him. He was a creature of the shadows, unable to bear the light. Her love was too bright, a fire that would incinerate him. They could never have a happy ending. So, this is your idea of revenge? He said, his voice flat. The wedding is fake, and your love. It's fake, too. Chloe's heart clenched as if stabbed. Without a word, she grabbed his hand and pressed it firmly against the soft swell of her breast. Is this what you felt back then, Leo? I think I'm starting to understand. The warmth and softness in his palm sent a jolt through him. His fingers curled instinctively. The heart that had been still for so long began to stir. But he quickly pulled his hand away, frowning. What are you trying to do? Are you angry? A woman getting married to her ex-boyfriend of 3 years, shamelessly. Enough. Leo's voice was sharp with a hint of anger, cutting her off. How many times have I told you? Stop putting yourself down. He trailed off, his words catching in his throat. Because Chloe was smiling. In her eyes, bright as a galaxy, Leo saw joy. She was happy because he was angry? But why? Chloe clearly had no intention of explaining. She just hummed a light, cheerful tune. As the familiar melody reached his ears, a flood of memories rushed into Leo's mind. The veil over his past was lifted just a crack. He tried to peer through it, to see the truth of the memory, but a sharp pain shot through his brain. A moment later, his gaze on Chloe turned vacant once more. Back at the estate, Chloe led Leo toward what was now their bedroom. She had already arranged everything. Every tie to his old life outside the estate was cut. For the rest of his life, he would be here, with her. As they passed through the hallway lined with paintings, Leo couldn't help but pause, staring at the woman on the canvases. Out of the blue, he asked, "Did you paint all of these?" Chloe, who had started up the stairs, stopped and came back to stand beside him. "Yeah, what do you think? Are they good?" Leo nodded. "They're beautiful. Is the person beautiful? Or is the painting beautiful?" Chloe asked, a playful glint in her eyes. Leo felt his heart skip a beat. He realized he had been staring at her for a long time. He quickly averted his gaze, missing the flicker of a smile at the corner of her eyes. His face felt hot, and he didn't answer her question. "When did you learn to paint?" "My senior year of high school." Seeing Leo's silence, Chloe pointed to the blank paper covering half of each painting. "Have you seen what's underneath these?" Leo shook his head. At first, he'd assumed it was a portrait of the groom, but now he wasn't so sure. Chloe slowly peeled back the white paper. The other half of the painting was revealed. It was a boy with a bright, sunny smile. It was Leo. In the paintings, Leo wore all kinds of clothes, a suit, casual wear, even a bathrobe. But no matter what he was wearing, the look in his eyes as he gazed at Chloe was always intensely sincere and full of love. A strange emotion welled up inside him, and his eyes, dry for so long, began to burn. Chloe reached out and placed her hand under his chin, catching the 2 hot tears that rolled down his cheeks. Leo was crying, but he couldn't feel a single trace of sadness. He couldn't control his own body, and could only let the tears fall. His soul felt detached, devoid of emotion, but his body was instinctively expressing a deep sorrow. "Leo," Chloe whispered, her voice soft. "It's all over. Let's start again, okay?" Sophomore year of high school began with students choosing their academic tracks. Leo wasn't natural at math and science, so he went straight into the STEM program. Chloe had wanted to follow him, but her guidance counselor talked her out of it. Her science scores were good enough for a decent state school, but her humanities grades were Ivy League level. With a little luck, she could get into a top-tier university. Back then, Chloe was still that withdrawn, quiet girl. She didn't argue. She didn't agree or disagree. She just let the counselor persuade her. She chose the humanities track. From then on, Leo and Chloe were separated by several floors of the school building. The pace in the advanced STEM program was brutal. The homework was endless, the workload immense. Leo spent most of his free time studying, and his visits to see Chloe became less frequent. With the first round of midterms approaching, everyone was buried in work. Not seeing Leo, the old feelings of despair, anxiety, and loneliness began to swallow Chloe whole again. After a semester together, she had grown used to his presence, his constant chatter, his teasing, the way he would encourage and comfort her when she was down. Now that he was gone, her world felt empty. She felt like she was back at the lake that night, walking step by step into the water. Only this time, there was no one coming to save her. She picked up the X-Acto knife she used for sharpening pencils and lightly dragged it across her thigh. The sharp pain was a shock to her system, but it quickly morphed into a strange relief. The coppery smell of blood brought a sliver of peace to her tormented soul. It was in that moment that she looked up and met the eyes of someone watching her from the classroom window. They were bright, like two small suns, scorching her ugly, broken soul until it felt exposed, with nowhere left to hide. In that instant, Chloe's world collapsed. Leo turned and walked away. Chloe tried to open her mouth to explain, but gave up. She knew she had no reason, no excuse to make him stay. Leo's retreating back, disappearing under the school's streetlights, became the only thing in her world. She felt something vital slipping away from her. A cool breeze rustled the hair at her temples. She reached out, her fingers curling as if to catch the wind. But just as she had failed to keep Leo, she failed to hold onto the wind. What slipped through her fingers was the wind, and also not the wind. 3 days later, during evening study hall, Chloe was staring blankly at her textbook. A sudden clatter broke the silence. Before she could react, a desk appeared in the empty spot next to her. "Hey, Chloe, this seat's open, right? Mind if I put my desk here?" "Well, even if you do, we'll just have to make it work until the counselor rearranges things." It was Leo. He gave her a wide grin, sat down, and pulled out a biology textbook, pretending to read it. After a couple of sentences, he stopped, realizing his mistake. He closed the book and winked at her. "I just got here. Don't have any of the humanities books yet. Can I borrow one of yours?" The boy's clean-cut, earnest face held a hint of embarrassment, but beneath it, Chloe could clearly see he was trying not to smile. She fumbled for her history textbook and passed it to him, tucking a small note inside. "Why did you move to the humanities track?" He scribbled a reply. "Guess. If you get it right, I'll buy you a candy bar." The real answer came from their guidance counselor a few days later. Leo had done so poorly on the first midterm, second to last in his class, that the STEM teachers, after consulting with his parents and Leo himself, had agreed to let him transfer. As far as Leo was concerned, the Advanced Humanities program was still an advanced program, so it was all the same. And just like that, he and Chloe were desk partners again. "Well, look at us, partners in crime again. This is great. Don't frown like that. You'll get permanent wrinkles. Back in my day, I was a legend in the STEM program. Even the class president respected me. And now, sigh, a 280 in science against a 260 in humanities. The advantage is mine. Wait, something about that doesn't sound right." Hearing that familiar voice beside her again, Chloe felt tears welling in her eyes. The boy's fiery, passionate energy shattered all her confusion and gloom. From that day on, she would never be lonely again. While this was a small thing for Leo and Chloe, for the school gossips, it was a major event. Soon, a rumor started to spread. Leo hadn't transferred because of bad grades, but because of a certain someone. The rumor never named the person, but anyone who heard it immediately thought of Chloe. Second to last in the top STEM class is still like top 50 in the whole school. He transferred to humanities for that? I don't buy it. Ugh, that girl always has such a sour face. Who was she trying to impress? Seriously, I walked past her the other day, and she kind of smelled weird. TSK. She wears the same clothes for days. Of course she smells. And also, as the rumors grew more vicious, the attacks, which had initially been focused on Chloe, started to include Leo. Simp, idiot, pathetic, shameless. Leo always just laughed it off. But for Chloe, it was worse than death. One day, she overheard someone bad-mouthing Leo again. Without a second thought, she grabbed a chair and went after them. The other students were too stunned by her fury to move. Only Leo, with his quick reflexes, managed to grab her and pull her out of the classroom. The school track field. Chloe clutched the hem of Leo's shirt, her head bowed, not daring to look at him. After a long silence, she finally squeezed out a few words. "I'm sorry. It's my fault you're getting dragged into this." She expected him to comfort her like he always did, but instead, she got an earful. "Who gave you permission to tear yourself down like that? If that had turned into a real fight, you could have gotten a disciplinary record. That follows you for life, you know that. And if I ever find another cut on you, I swear I will report it to the school. Do you understand me?" What he didn't say was, if you get hurt, it hurts me. He couldn't say it, because even he wasn't sure if what he felt was friendship or love. Leo laid into her, completely unaware of the position or authority he was speaking from. Or perhaps he was aware of his feelings, but chose to ignore them. Chloe wanted to defend herself, but he cut her off mercilessly. "I'll figure out a way to deal with the rumors. Don't worry about it." She became more agitated. I wasn't going to talk about that. Leo paused, realizing he had misunderstood. What did you want to say? I want to say, I don't smell bad. And there's no weird smell. The girl mumbled, her head still down, her cheeks redder than the sunset. Leo couldn't help but laugh, his anger completely gone. He just sighed. Just remember, from now on, you're not allowed to hurt yourself. Got it. We're smart people. We solve problems like smart people. Okay. A gala was underway at Chloe Sterling's estate. The guests were a who's who of high society, tech billionaires, political power players, old money families. The titans of every industry in the Pacific Northwest. Between clinking glasses and air kisses, deals were being made and networks were being expanded. That was the real purpose of these events. But there was one exception. Leo. Audrey had told him that eating a good, satisfying meal could help his brain produce dopamine, which would aid his recovery. So, he was in a corner, methodically working his way through a plate of food. His quiet, out-of-place presence soon caught the attention of the other guests. Before long, a young man with bleached blonde hair swaggered over to him, spoiling for a fight. Dude, are you homeless? Did you just wander in off the street? The man, Chad, sneered, his hands shoved in his pockets as he looked down his nose at Leo. Leo ignored him, continuing to eat. He motioned for a waiter to refill his juice. Seeing Leo's complete lack of reaction, Chad's face flushed with anger. Do you have any idea whose party this is? This is Chloe Sterling's place. She's the majority shareholder of Sterling Innovations. Everyone who's anyone in this town kisses up to her. And you're here, crashing her party to freeload. Chad wasn't just shooting in the dark. The high society circle in Seattle was small. He recognized almost everyone here. And for the few he didn't, he'd gotten the rundown from his father. He was certain this guy was a nobody. Everyone in their circle knew he was pursuing Chloe, but she had never given him the time of day. He normally wouldn't have been invited to an event this exclusive, but Chloe had sent him an invitation out of the blue. Now seemed like the perfect opportunity to impress her by putting this nobody in his place. His words were deliberately insulting, just short of spitting in Leo's face. Anyone from their world, anyone with an ounce of social standing, would have exploded. And when people get angry, they get sloppy. But the explosion never came. Leo just stood there, his posture straight, an aura of quiet grace about him. He looked at Chad with no expression, and the light reflected in his dark eyes made Chad feel strangely inadequate. Furious at being one-upped, Chad pressed on. Get out of here. You're not welcome. Look at you. Your clothes are from some discount rack. It's embarrassing. Does that mean I can't be here? Leo's voice was as calm as still water. Chad's insults weren't landing. We're all wearing Armani and Chanel. What league are you in, trying to hang with us? Seriously, beat it. Chad was practically shouting now, his face beat red. You want me to leave? Does the host of this party know that? Leo said coolly. Security. Someone get this guy out of here. He's lowering the tone of the whole event. Upstairs in the study, watching the scene on a security monitor, Chloe knew it was time for her to make an entrance and save her leading man. Just as Chad was calling for security, Chloe descended the grand spiral staircase, her gown trailing behind her. She wore a deep blue, custom-made dress, with a sheer wrap draped over her shoulders, hinting at the pale skin beneath. Her cool, ethereal beauty, combined with her exquisite features, made her look like a goddess. The glittering chandeliers in the hall seemed dim in comparison. Every eye in the room was on her. She moved with effortless grace, gliding over to Leo and taking his arm. Then, to the astonishment of everyone present, she picked up a glass of red wine and poured it directly over Chad's head. The room fell into a stunned silence. The only sounds were the soft drip of wine onto the plush carpet and Chad's choked, furious gasps. Someone get him out of here, Chloe said, her voice dripping with ice. He's lowering the tone. Then, with Leo still on her arm, she walked to the front of the room, gave a slight curtsy, and announced, "This is Leo Vance. He is my husband." The room erupted. Later that night, in Chloe's study, Leo was leaning against the mahogany desk, lost in a daze. Chloe's dramatic entrance had been a genuine shock to him. The heart that had been put to sleep by his treatment was stirring, waking up. What are you daydreaming about? Come help me with this dress. I can't get it unzipped. Almost on autopilot, Leo obeyed, moving behind her to work the zipper. His fingers brushed against her soft, smooth skin, the sensation sending a jolt through his system. The rich scent of roses flooded his senses, making it impossible to think. It was a long time before he came back to himself. By then, Chloe had already changed into comfortable loungewear. That guy, he said finally. You set that up, didn't you? Chloe nodded. Why? Leo asked after a moment of silence. This time, Chloe didn't answer directly. Leo, do you know what your most attractive quality is? Leo shook his head, confused. Chloe wrapped her arms around him from behind, her lips close to his ear. Forbearance, she whispered. In restraint. Before Leo could react, she bit down on his shoulder, leaving a clear set of teeth marks. Enveloped in her embrace, Leo couldn't process what he was feeling. The physical pleasure wasn't connecting with his conscious mind. He had loved her. His heart used to beat for her. He could feel the physical reaction in his body now, but he couldn't bring himself to do what he would have done in the past, to turn and pull her into his arms. He turned to face her, letting her kiss him. It was a long, deep kiss that tugged at something inside him. His numb heart felt like it was basking in a holy light constructed entirely by Chloe, warm and comforting. See, Leo, she murmured against his lips. I did it. I solved the problem like a smart person. For a long time after that, Chloe took Leo to all sorts of social gatherings. At first, he resisted. He felt that he, in his current state, was unworthy of the brilliant woman Chloe had become. So, Chloe would patiently reason with him. Does a general's wife, who was with him when he was just a private, feel unworthy of him once he becomes a general? Leo, you have a stake in everything I built. What's mine is yours. Leo, your imposter syndrome is off the charts. You need to learn to adapt, to get used to this life of champagne and luxury. Leo, let's go see the Northern Lights. Leo, our roles are reversed now. Don't you find that interesting? Leo, you said it was love at first sight for you. Was there any physical attraction involved? Leo, I bought a very sexy new swimsuit. And so it went on and on. Chloe took Leo to concerts, to feed pigeons in London, to see Monet's work in Paris. They went to the opera in Vienna and ate tiramisu in Florence. Once, she even rented out an entire theater. There was no audience, no other actors. She wore a replica of the blood-red dress from their junior year play, her hair styled the same way, and recited the lines from the script to him, over and over. Before all this, Leo's memories were all shades of gray. Afterward, his world started to fill with color. A vibrant red, Chloe's red. If his memories were lost to the past, shrouded in a veil, then so be it. If his emotions were blunted, then she would cut her own heart open and show him its passion. He would fall in love with her again. He had to. Just like that night, when a single glance from afar was enough to make him run into a freezing lake to pull her out. Leo had buried himself in ice, hidden under a thick blanket of snow. And now, Chloe was digging him out with her bare hands, chipping away at the frost, piece by piece, with her slender, pale fingers. Just like he had done for her all those years ago. Chloe was finally experiencing the same despair and helplessness that Leo had faced. That feeling of watching the person you love sink into a swamp while you stand powerless on the shore. She couldn't even imagine how he had endured the constant ridicule, how he had brushed off the judgmental stares, how he had managed to come and cheer her up every single day, even when doctors said she might never